Hi, everyone. My name is Sherry Nickerson, and I'm a director here at Old Line Government Affairs, and we welcome you to another edition of Online with Old Line. For this edition, we're excited to introduce Delegate Kirill Reznik, representing District 39 in Montgomery County. Thank you, Delegate Reznik, for being here with us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on Delegate Reznik. It'll take me a couple minutes because there's a lot to talk about. For beginners, Delegate Reznik immigrated here to the United States from the Ukraine when he was very young. He immigrated to Florida. After growing up in Florida, he earned his master's in international peace and conflict resolution and his JD at American University, and became a member of the bar in both Maryland and DC. He became active in politics when he joined the Montgomery County Young Democrats in 2004 and successfully ran for Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee in 2006. In 2007, he was appointed by Governor Martin O'Malley to his current House seat, which was at the time being vacated by Senator Nancy King. Delegate Reznik now serves as the chairman of Health and Human Resources Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee, where he's in charge of about 40% of our budget, including health, mental health, housing and community development, disabilities and aging, so a very large portion of our budget. He also serves as the House parliamentarian, a member of the Joint Committee on Federal Relations. I just saw you shake your head. Are you no longer House parliamentarian?
I'm no longer the House parliamentarian now.
Good to know. Okay, he serves on the Joint Committee on Federal Relations. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Joint Committee for Administrative, Executive, and Legislative Regulations, and the Joint Committee on Spending Affordability. You sound like a very, very busy man.
And I'm the House chair of the Joint Committee on Mental Health, Addiction Services.
Excellent. Yep. Great. So let's go ahead and get started with the questions. Delegate Reznik, to get us rolling, can you tell us a little bit about your district that you represent and your own, fill in the details of what I didn't say on your own past?
Sounds good. Thanks, Sherry. Well, you said a lot, so I think you covered a lot of it. We can start with District 39. District 39 is north central Montgomery County. It encompasses about half of Germantown, all of the places that are called Gaithersburg, but are not actually the city of Gaithersburg. So all of unincorporated Gaithersburg, parts of Clarksburg, and the town of Washington Grove, which is this teeny tiny little town of about 500 residents, set back in the woods. You'd never find it if you weren't looking for it, but it's a gorgeous little place.
Washington Grove?
Washington Grove, that's right.
Interesting. Okay.
And so it encompasses about 125,000 people. That's what the district looks like right now. Obviously, we're going to go through redistricting at some point within the next few months, and we'll see what District 39 looks like then. It's a great town. It's mostly residential. It is north, like I said, north central Montgomery County, so often forgotten by our folks in the down county. It's one of my jobs to make sure to remind folks that up county does exist, and it's not actually southern Pennsylvania. And but it's a great neighborhood. We're actually right on the edge of what is referred to in Montgomery County as the Ag Reserve. So we're not ourselves rural, but we're right on the edge of the Ag Reserve. We do even have 2 farms in my district, 2 nice sized farms in my district. So, you have a little bit of everything. We're very suburban. We have a little rural. We do have a number of businesses in our district, a lot of biotech companies, that kind of thing. So, like I said, we have a little bit of everything. We have a great constituency, one of the most diverse constituencies, not just in the state, but in the country as well. And so representing that kind of a swath of people is actually really rewarding and a lot of fun. So that's my district, and hopefully it stays relatively similar the next few months, and I get to keep all those great areas. As far as me, you mentioned a lot. I grew up in South Florida. I got my bachelor's degree from Florida International University. in international relations. I actually work when I'm not in the legislature as a federal contractor with the U.S. Agency for International Development. And I've been doing that almost exclusively for 25 years.
Now, what do you do for them?
So I have managed over 25 years a huge swath of different types of contracts and programs. Right now, I am the program manager of a very large support services contract. I have 125 employees that provide a range of support services to the Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance. So we're embedded with the client and we work directly with them. In many ways, you wouldn't be able to tell who's USAID and who's us as contractors because we're all there together doing a lot of the similar work. But we're there to support their mission, and it's an incredible mission, providing humanitarian response to disasters all over the world. I love mentioning this because last year, I believe, the World Food Program got the Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh, wow.
The work that they do, the World Food Program does to earn that Nobel Peace Prize is actually through grants from our office. And so though we never got to share in the actual Nobel or the money or any of that good stuff, we take it as a point of pride that we contributed to being able to win that Nobel Peace Prize. So it's an incredible job, an incredible opportunity.
Well, it sounds like a very rewarding opportunity too, or a rewarding career to be in. That's fantastic, helping other people, which is what you do in your legislative career as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what originally inspired you to want to be in office? So you got into politics pretty early on, but what was your inspiration?
So I don't know if there was any one specific thing. As you mentioned, my family immigrated from the Soviet Union when I was very, very young. I was 4 years old in the 70s. We immigrated. It was at the height of the Cold War. And so talking politics, talking international relations was a very, very common occurrence around our dinner table. And so from the earliest moments, I always admired and looked up to and respected politicians and elected officials. And always as a kid, I always thought, man, to become an elected official, you must really be like the smartest and the best. Fortunately, in some instances, that dream was shattered when I actually got into office, but neither here nor there. But I really always just admired being an elected official. The idea of becoming an elected official was always, to me, sort of the height of professionalism. Right. And when I was early on, while I was still getting my master's degree and I was working as a contractor for USAID, I was traveling a lot. And when I graduated from law school, I actually practiced law for about 18 months. And in that period of time, I actually stopped traveling because I wasn't doing international development anymore, and found the opportunity to be able to get involved. And so I joined the Montgomery County Young Democrats, as you mentioned, and started going to events and started getting more involved. And sort of the next thing I knew, the opportunity to run for Central Committee came up, and I ran. It sort of, steamrolled from there. And when the opportunity came up to take Senator King's seat, and to run for it, I really thought to myself, maybe this is something, maybe it is time for me to be able to do this, and make my voice heard in a way that that hasn't been heard before, and be able to serve my community in a higher capacity. So it really wasn't sort of the one thing. It wasn't one issue. It wasn't like, somebody getting irate, the fact that like the potholes on their street aren't getting filled and they're going to fix it, kind of a movie type moment. It was really just a lifetime of wanting to serve, and an opportunity presenting itself to be able to do that. And that's when I ran and thankfully won, and I'm now in my 4th term, which is amazing. I can't believe, looking back, that much time has actually passed.
Right. Well, back to your statement about when you moved here from the Ukraine or from the Soviet Union. I remember I was literally just talking yesterday with somebody about the duck and cover things we had to do on, our drills. These days, it's a completely different kind of drills that they do in schools. Ours were hide under the desk and just in case Russia pushes the button, And I was thinking, in hindsight, I'm thinking, what is a desk going to do if if a nuclear war happens? But back then we did those drills all the time. So
Yeah.
it was a different
And
time.
it's sad, now I have kids in elementary school, and it's sad to have to watch them have to go through a similar thing for different reasons.
Yeah, very
much
different.
much more personal, much more in your face reasons.
Exactly. It is.
And that's one of the things I try and do in Annapolis, is find ways that we find solutions to problems so that we don't have to do that, right? So that we
Right.
don't have to subject our kids to some of the stupidity that we had to go through because of fixable problems.
Right. Agreed. So you've already touched on this a little bit, but how has your experience in Annapolis been different or the same than you originally expected when you were running for office or when you were appointed to your office?
Yeah, it's hard to say because it has been a while. It's been 13 years, and from that perspective, it's kind of hard to remember and differentiate, your feelings and thinking beforehand. I will say a couple things though. When I first got there, I got a lot of advice, most of it very good advice. And nowadays, when a freshman asks me for advice, I only give them one piece of advice. And I say, if anybody ever tells you that there is a rule around here that can't be broken, they will be the first ones you see breaking that rule.
Great advice.
What was that?
That's great advice.
Because the first thing that was told to me when I got there was, do not fall in love with your bills, right? They're not your children. Most of them are going to fail.
Right.
Learn to deal with that and move on. And inevitably, the very people that gave me that advice were the ones that were irate, red in the face when one of their bills got killed. So that's part of it happens. And so what I think I learned was very early on that unless it's literally in the Constitution, statutes, or the rule book, anything else can be fudged. Right? You can find a way around, any other issue, unless it's literally like illegal or against.
Right. Right.
And I think that when you realize that, it helps you be able to think more creatively in order to achieve what you want to achieve. And sometimes, you achieve those things without the credit. Sometimes you achieve those things by not passing a bill, right? There have been plenty of times when I've tried to accomplish something, and the bill itself failed, but the goal was accomplished.
Exactly.
Right? And that has happened to me numerous times. So, that's sort of been the change. You sort of go into a legislative body with the Schoolhouse Rock song playing in your head about how a bill becomes a law. And then you realize that it's more than just passing legislation, right? It's helping your constituents cut through red tape. It's being there in moments of difficulty for your constituents. And sometimes it means, fighting for issues with or without a bill getting passed, but finding those super creative ways to accomplish what you need to accomplish on behalf of your state, on behalf of your county, and on behalf of your district, whether or not you actually get to stand behind the governor when he's signing a piece of paper.
Right. I think that's one thing that the general public doesn't understand about our legislature in this process is that there are thousands and thousands of bills filed every year and a couple hundred that pass. So it's always interesting to see, and there are, like you said, what other ways around it and to legally get things done.
And of those few hundred that pass, I would say maybe a quarter to half of them are just boring routine stuff, right?
Right.
Like commissions and extensions of laws that are being expired. I mean, every one of those things is a bill, right?
Right.
So the truly impactful stuff really does take a lot of work and a lot of patience and a lot of heartache.
Agreed. And sometimes many years.
Many years, many years. There was a bill I was fighting for that we got. It was a constitutional referendum that was voted on last time to allow for election day voter registration.
Mhm.
That was my bill. And I fought for that thing for 10 years.
Yep.
It was one of the first bills I ever put in, and it took me 10 years to get it to pass, and it finally passed.
But you did.
But you did it,
Mercy
and
sits
not many
behind.
legislators can say they get to amend the Constitution. So
Right.
and
That's a
get more votes than Governor Hogan.
huge accomplishment. So speaking of that, why don't you tell us what have been your proudest moments? What have been the initiatives that you're most proud of?
Wow. Over a 13-year period, there's really a lot, and they vary. Amending the state constitution is huge.
Huge.
But there's always been, I'll tell you my proudest moment for a bill that didn't pass. A number of years ago, I filed more bills than I had ever filed in any given session. I think I was up to like 15. I went crazy. I don't know why I did so many, but it just became just a situation that happened. I hadn't had as many bills before, and I hadn't had as many bills since in any one session. But a lobbyist came to me and said, I need your help. I am doing this bill pro bono, and I need a sponsor. And I rolled my eyes. I said, I don't have any more time. He says, well, let me tell you what it is. And it was a bill that dealt with trains in Europe, Nazi trains in Europe that transported Jews to concentration camps across France.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And the company that was operating those trains, still in existence, has an American subsidiary that was bidding on the Purple Line in Montgomery County.
Oh, okay.
And we needed a bill that basically said they cannot bid until they provide reparations.
Wow, that's impressive.
And that company and the country of France itself had already signed unilateral treaties with various countries around the world, Germany, Israel, throughout Europe, to provide reparations. But they had never signed a unilateral treaty with the United States to do that. And so this was a bill to try and enforce the issue. And
right up your alley.
It is up my alley, absolutely. I've had family members I obviously never met who perished in the Holocaust, and it's when you speak to any person of Jewish descent, anybody who is of the Jewish faith, the Holocaust is front and center in their minds. We teach our children about it. We don't forget. And so it was very important. It was very difficult. What made it even harder was there was a gentleman from Baltimore who was leading the effort. He himself was a survivor of those trains. And the weekend before the bill hearing in the House, he passed away.
Oh,
so it was that much more emotional.
Right.
Ultimately, the bill did not pass. However, the fact that we were pushing the issue and when we were pushing the issue, other states saw that we started pushing the issue. So I think a bill went in New York and New Jersey. I mean, bills started popping. At that moment, SNCF, the French rail company, decided to enter into unilateral negotiations with the United States.
Wow.
And I think it was about 5 months later, I got an invitation to go to the State Department, to the treaty room at the State Department, to witness the signing of the treaty that provided for those reparations. And again, a bill that did not pass, but got enough attention. I remember turning on NPR and being like assaulted on NPR as I'm driving into Annapolis. I'm just listening to it. They're talking about me and just, tearing me to shreds about how this bill is making things worse and blah, blah, blah. But it passed, and it was, the issue.
Right.
It's
Right.
what we got. And it really was a very, very proud moment. And of all the things that I've done, that moment in the treaty room at the State Department really stands out as one of the most significant.
I can imagine. That's huge. So, what policy initiatives do you still have out there that are near and dear to your heart that you
Oh
still?
my.
Where do we begin?
Where do we begin? It's interesting. I obviously still have, I'm sorry?
I said, I know healthcare has a special place in your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell a funny little story about this. So when I first got appointed, two of us were appointed at the same time, myself and former Delegate Bill Frick were appointed at the same time. We were both appointed to replace outgoing members of the legislature. I replaced Senator King, and Delegate Frick replaced the former vice chair of the HGO committee. And so I just assumed naturally that that I would replace Senator King on Ways and Means.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting a phone call from Speaker Bush, and he said, Delegate Reznik, I just want to call and let you know I'm going to put you on the HGO committee. He said, it's a great committee. It's got a great chairman. You're going to have a great experience. And I said, well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really appreciate it. I'm going to do, the best I can. And I, put down the phone, and I exclaimed a very internet inappropriate word, because I knew nothing about healthcare. Right. And so I was not happy. And this is not news. I've told this story before many times in front of many people, including former Speaker Mike Bush, who has since left us. But to the point where I was actually at work and I was sitting in cubicles at the time, and the person in the cubicle next to me stuck their head over the wall and said, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine." It was the best thing that could have happened.
Good.
HGO under Chairman Hammond, who I served with, was an incredible learning experience. I learned more. I went in knowing nothing about healthcare policy, and I learned more about healthcare policy now than I ever thought I would. And I'm able to sit in a room with insurance people and doctors and other medical professionals and policy experts, and have adult, frank conversations and be able to hold my own. It really was a blessing in disguise.
And healthcare and insurance are both huge issues, so many facets.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it also gave me the opportunity to now be on appropriations as the chair of HHS, because I knew so much about the policy. I was able to, and budgets and numbers come naturally to me. So it was a great marriage for me, honestly. And so it's been a great experience being able to deal with healthcare issues. I still, to this day, deal with healthcare issues in many ways from a financing point of view. But you will still see every year I will have 2 or 3 bills dealing specifically with healthcare. I'm still very interested, though COVID kind of took care of this issue, at least temporarily. But I'm very interested in making sure that folks who have diabetes are able to get the insulin and supplies they need without having over-the-counter costs or out-of-pocket costs, excuse me. We started pursuing this issue a couple years ago, and then COVID hit, and insurance companies voluntarily chose to forego those out-of-pocket costs. And so we'll see what happens as COVID lifts.
Right.
I'm very interested in making sure that seniors get a choice when it comes to their healthcare options. I've been pushing legislation to allow them to be able to choose their supplemental plans the way that you and I choose during open enrollment. Most people don't know this, but if you're on Medicare and you have supplemental plan, you're not allowed to go to a different supplemental plan. You can't just choose. You have to be medically underwritten first. And if you can't pass medical underwriting, they won't let you. So you are stuck with whatever you have once you pick.
Right.
Several states have changed that. And so I'm been pushing to get that changed to give seniors the opportunity to be able to effectively, manage their own healthcare needs.
Well, and I would argue that many of those people that are choosing their Medicare straight into the plan don't fully understand what their choices are.
Oh, absolutely.
And because there's not enough people, there's not enough education out there for it.
Yeah, no, it's very complicated. Frankly, it's overly complicated. That's actually, the biggest thing that I do with regard to healthcare policy is to try and chip away at some of the complication to it.
Right.
One of the things that I keep pushing and I'm getting no traction on, but I'm persistent, just like the other bill for 10 years. I actually have come up with a universal healthcare plan, healthcare policy that we could implement in the state of Maryland. It would dovetail perfectly into the Affordable Care Act. It would give everybody coverage, and it would keep the insurance companies in business as payers, kind of the same way that Medicaid and Medicare work, where the insurance companies continue to serve as payers. And it would actually lower costs. It would tax businesses on a payroll tax basis, but it would actually lower their costs because their cost to the tax would actually be less than what they pay for to cover their employees anyway. It's a very large bill and a very complicated bill, and there's a lot of hesitation about it. But if you look at it on its face and compare it to how complicated, overly and unnecessarily complicated health insurance is, if you know the old expression about wanting to scratch your nose by going around your head,
right?
That's our insurance. That's healthcare policy in our country in a nutshell, right? Maintaining this illusion that we must be capitalist in our healthcare plan in order to, to maintain some kind of economic policy. But when you look at the reality of it, 50% of Marylanders, or close to 50% of Marylanders, get their health insurance directly from the government in one way or another. They are either employees of federal, state, local government.
Right.
They are on Medicare, they're on Medicaid, they're on TRICARE. They are 100% subsidized on the Affordable Care Act, depending on their income, or they are some degree subsidized on the Affordable Care Act, depending on their income. But upwards of half of our state already has a government paying for their health care. Now, whether it's job-based or not job-based, it doesn't matter, but they already get it. They already get it. And theirs is the least complicated of health insurance policies. So for me, finding a way to, and I understand the need to keep the insurance companies in business because they employ people and we want those people employed. And we can do that because I don't really want the health insurance companies making healthcare decisions. Too often they have made bad decisions about people's care because their decisions are based on the bottom line, not on what somebody needs.
Right.
And so making them just the payer, right, with a guaranteed bottom line so they can pay their employees and make a modest profit is frankly, I think, the best way to go. And so I got this plan and I keep pushing it, and everyone tells me I'm crazy, and that's what we're going to do.
Sounds like you're very, very passionate about it, and that's important.
Yes, I've probably taken 10 of our 15 minutes just talking about this one bill, but
that's quite all right.
It's what I do to everybody, and that's why people avoid me at parties, because they just turn around and walk away, because there's like Reznik's going to talk to us again about his stupid healthcare plan that's never going to pass. So.
Great. So to wrap things up here, you've already, I don't know what you still have on top of this, but because you've already mentioned a lot of very unique and fun facts about yourself, but can you give us one unique fun fact that you haven't talked about yet, that's still hanging out there that you'd like people to know about?
Sure, there's probably a lot of fun facts about me. I will say this, and I know that people are surprised to hear this because, I have this really svelte, chiseled physique. But there was a time in my life when I actually owned and operated a martial arts academy when I was in college.
Really?
I was, I don't know how you would define it, but a black belt in martial arts, and have was trained all my childhood. And when I was in college, my brother had a karate school, and life for him was getting a little complicated. So one day at a family event, he comes up, throws me the keys, and says, "Hey, it's your business now. Don't kill it." And so through the course of college, I actually ran and operated my own martial arts academy.
That's very cool. Now, do you still, I don't know if they call it practice martial arts, or do you still get
I
out
do
there?
not, and I really, really want to, but things creak a lot more than they used to when I was in college, and um, and I could stand to probably get in shape, but I always think about it and always kind of feel like I want to go do something.
Mhm.
But between multiple jobs and family
Right.
and everything else, it's not the easiest.
What about your kids? Do they practice at all?
They don't. My 8-year-old has had waning interest, like sort of in and out.
Right.
Um, she actually does ballet now. Not ballet, I'm sorry, gymnastics. She goes to gymnastics. Both my girls go to gymnastics every week. Um, and they do like it. And so we'll see where that goes. But if more should come out of it, and suddenly one or both of them decide they want to start training martial arts, I'm all for it. We just got to find the right school.
Yep, I tried to sign my son up, who I thought it would do him really benefit him, like focus wise and control wise and things like that, because I think that's great for that.
Mhm.
He didn't last long, but he's playing baseball now, so
That's okay. That's good too. That's good
it
too.
is. It is.
So,
So
as a famous Marylander, Babe Ruth once said, the hardest thing in the world is to hit a round ball with a round bat. So that needs some focus too.
I love it. Love it. Well, thank you, Delegate Reznik, for taking the time to be with us today. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to having more opportunities to work with you. And for more conversations with legislators and more online with Old Line, please visit oldlinelobbying.com.